Cool. Just to wrap this all up, one thing I've been thinking about a lot, and quite a lot actually over the last few years, is we play out of 3 different places, if you want to kind of break it all down. We play out of our mind, and that's obviously all the technical stuff that we've been talking about, avoid notes, how we pick sounds, how we approach a song and build it. We play out of our emotions, and that's such an important thing because music's an emotional language, and if we try to disconnect our emotions from our playing, it can become really stagnant and very formulaic and just doesn't have life to it. So 100% play with emotion. That's where you get your feeling. That's when you accentuate certain notes. That's when music kind of comes alive, I think. And the third area is spirit. Like obviously we're Christian musicians and we have the ability to play out of our spirit, and that's when the prophetic comes into play. That's when God can move through your instrument. Obviously, if you look at the Bible, David, it's funny because when he played for Saul, it doesn't mention anything about him singing. He didn't sing any Christian lyrics. He didn't sing any Jesus. Obviously, Jesus wasn't there back then, but you get my idea. All he did was play.
I mean, it was everywhere, but
yes.
Yeah. All right.
But Jesus hadn't come in the flesh and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Anyway, rewind.
Theology.
Yeah, but he was playing his instrument and he was able to calm evil spirits because of the anointing on him.
Yeah.
And all he was doing is playing. And sometimes I think, oh, we're not singing. Sometimes you go, I'm not the worship leader, I'm not singing the Christian lyrics. But you can actually bring something spiritual through your instrument that can cause it can create an atmosphere, spiritual. God can move through it. And that just comes from making a conscious decision to connect your spirit when you're playing. And that's when you'll see things happen. Yeah, so mind, play out of your mind, obviously learn your theory, all that kind of stuff. Emotions, make sure you connect your emotions with your playing. And then spirit, make sure you connect your spirit when you're playing.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that leading on from what Pete was saying, which is brilliant, by the way, if you don't know the technicality of your music, you don't know how to speak. You don't know how to play out of your prophetic.
Totally, 100%.
You don't know how to be confident because
you don't have the tools to bring it, yeah.
Yeah, and you quite often get caught in trying to get music right rather than playing music. It's like when you're playing classical music and you've studied, it's a piece that's really hard and you've studied, and you're so into the music that you're not in the music. You're so into trying to get this thing right that you don't have a chance to play what's going on. And so often why is technical skills really important? Why is it important to know your inversions? Why is it important to know all the scales and what keys and all that stuff that you're playing in? Because if you don't know those things, you aren't able to speak and prophesy on your instrument, so playing out of your spirit.
Your language is limited, yeah.
Yeah, your language is totally limited. Like you can't give a great speech if you're still trying to figure out how to put sentences together. This is what this is. And so music, we need to start thinking of music as a language because even though we don't really have a dictionary of musical phrases. Well, this phrase says this, so this is what it's trying to say to us, this is the language. We don't have that, but on an emotive, on an intuitive level, we understand that music is a language. It says things to us. When we're watching a movie and the chord demonstrates what's going on with the character without any words being said, we know what the journey is in the narrative. Consequently, if you change that music to something happy or something dark or whatever it is, we are able to pre-verbally communicate something to you about what is going to happen with the movie. So we know that there's intention, we know that there's language that happens when we use music. And so it's important that with everything that we talked about today, it's important to be thinking about this language that we use. What is the music saying to me? Music is emotion. Music is a language. Music has syntax. It has intelligence to it. In fact, the definition of music is it's basically like this science and physics and all of this kind of non-magical mathematical world colliding with the magical and the intuitive and the pre-verbal and the ability to say something. And so music, the science joining with the emotion is what makes music spectacular. And it's a language that we are able to, I think it's I think it's important that we use this language to talk about the things of God, to talk about his goodness, because much like music, God is both knowable and unknowable. We know things about music, but we also don't understand fully. We intuitively lean into the direction of like, well, it's saying something happy. Yeah, but how? Oh, I'm just using these chords to move this kind of way. Well, there's not really a definition behind it, but we intuitively kind of push our boat out into the water of meaning, hoping that we are heading in the right direction. And so when we play in church, I mean, that's constantly what I'm doing. I'm like pushing the boat out into the ocean of like hoping that God directs it in the right place, that it'll bless someone, that it'll talk to someone about his goodness. It'll minister to someone. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it just points people to Jesus. Like we reveal what God is wanting to say to people. And so it's a language. We need to be responsible with the language. We need to get on our instruments and learn how to talk more proficiently by, I think you just got to spend time with it. You got to spend
100%.
ages with it.
Yep.
And
Anything. Yep.
and learn how to say what you're trying to say. One of the really practical ways you can do this is by taking a movie, turning the volume off, and then trying to communicate what it's doing, just looking at the subtitles and trying to communicate what it's doing on your own. So you've found ways of practically practicing this skill of like talking about the music. I'm David, this is Pete, this is our masterclass. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We hope there is things there that will help you and your teams. It'll help you broaden your understanding of this instrument and also help you understand the importance of the role that you have to play and what you can bring to the table. And it will illuminate those 3 or 4 or 5 chords that you go like, oh, is this it? No, it's so full of like wonder and choices that you can make, almost too many choices. So
Totally.
go make good choices.